interview room. Muzzy checking in, the time's here. How you all doing? Alright, let's begin. Let's have a chat about the fact that I wanna interview the best fighters in the world, and that's that. Had a lot of guests from everywhere, all across the globe. Fighters tell me about the
How are you, boys and girls? Mudzy here from Muay Thai Interviews once again. My next guest, he was originally from Penrith, New South Wales, but he now calls Perth home. He has fought MMA, K1 and Muay Thai, but has now found his true love in boxing. Every discipline he's ever fought in, he's won a title. He's had over 80 fights combined. He has recently opened up his own gym called The Barn in Balcatta. He goes by the fight names The Captivator, The Decapitator, and his motto, which I absolutely fucking love, is Capper likes to bang. I'm joined by the man himself, Wes Capper. How are you, buddy?
What's going on? Thanks for having me on, guys.
Mate, thanks for agreeing for a chat. It was nice, quick and sweet.
Mate, story of my sex life. Let's rock and roll.
Mine too, mate. I'm just on R&R, so the first one's always very quick, mate.
Beautiful.
When you've been by yourself
Mate,
for 3 weeks.
Hey, it happens to the best of us.
Mate, it's been a hell of a ride so far. So how did you find martial arts, and where did it all begin for the Decapitator?
Obviously, born and bred in Penrith. I don't know if anybody knows Penrith. Penrith's probably, a little bit rougher than most areas. Like the most, the top tier kind of MMA fighters for Australia right now, like Tai Tuivasa, Tyson Pedro, Jamie Tahuna, all them boys. I went to school with them, grew up with them guys. So, you learn how to scrap or you copped a licking. So I copped a lot of lickings to start off with, but I was slowly but surely just got a little bit better, so now I can hand out the lickings.
Mate, I know exactly what you're talking about because I grew up in West Ryde, Ermington, which is
just as good.
Just down the road, fun. Mate, Parramatta. Except there was a lot more lebos where I
was dealing with bloody 100 kilo Kiwi boys at the age of 14.
And no doubt in Penrith there would have been a lot of lads.
Oh, full of lads.
Full of lads. And if people don't know what lads are, it's the equivalent of the pommies, what they call chavs, council housing and violence, with their polo hats, their Nautica jumpers, and their TNs.
Oh, it was terrible, terrible outfit.
Don't forget your spray cans.
No, you have to have a spray can.
And I think they even talk pig Latin, where they like Oaksmay, Eshays, Adelays, everything was backwards.
Actually, shit, I haven't thought about that.
Yeah, like
kids just do that heaps at school. Actually,
it was like they call you lad. They say Adelaide, and they'd put the word backwards and like add an A at the end. So instead of saying lad, be Adlay. Yeah. So what I want to ask is, what is it about Muay Thai, K1, MMA, and boxing that you like about each separate disciplines?
Depends on what day you ask me. If you want me to break it down for you, I originally started as a wrestler.
Yep.
At 15, I was training at a place called Fit for All. It's in Penrith, and Jamie Tahuna was the kind of head coach down there. And so I started wrestling and blah blah, and then I ended up getting shipped over to Perth because Mum wasn't happy with the circles I was mixing with. Probably a good idea. And then I came here, and then I wanted to fight MMA, so I had my handful of fights in MMA, and then there's two guys at the gym at that certain time. There was Xavier Lucas and Gustavo Falsaroli, and both of those guys had fantastic attributes in their own field. So Xavier was an awesome stand-up, and then Gustavo was a wicked wrestler, jiu-jitsu. And I just got to a stage where I just went, what's my background? What's my kind of, thing that I can fall back to when it comes to that?
Yeah.
And I didn't really have one, and I enjoyed kicking, hitting stuff, so I just thought, I'll do Muay Thai. It's a bit more of an all-round kind of discipline. So then I branched off and started doing Muay Thai, and then, I like the kickboxing as well, so I started doing that, and then all of a sudden the fights started becoming quite scarce. I started to climb the ranks a little bit more, so then fights were not as frequent, so then I was hungry, man. I just wanted to bang non-stop all the time. So in between that, I just started doing some amateur boxing, and you can fight amateur boxing really regularly, you know what I mean? So I started having a few amateur boxing fights, and then it got to a stage where, I was like, I kind of hit a bit of a stalemate there. I'll turn pro, and then went pro from there, and then I started doing all three, and then, I haven't gone back to MMA since, pretty much. I've just gone and done a big loop. So that's where it's at with that, so.
What was it that made you want to just solely concentrate on boxing? Because you pretty much fought everyone in the 70 kilo division in
Everyone,
Australia. Pretty
everyone.
much everyone.
Yeah, everyone. For everyone. So, I don't know, like I was happy with what I'd achieved in the sport at that certain stage, but literally all it stemmed from was I went to Las Vegas and I did a training camp there for 6 weeks, and I trained at Extreme Couture, which is Randy Couture's gym,
Yeah.
and I was fighting Jai Bradney for like an MMA title at that time. It's like, it was kind of weird rules, but they were paying okay money, and I thought, yeah, I'll do it, you know.
Yeah.
And so all I was over there, and I was just wrestling, and then in the interim, I was going to Mayweather's gym and Hit Factory as well. And there was guys that I was seeing over there that, you know, were on pay-per-view or on ESPN, and I was watching them box, and I was even sparring with some of them, and they're not any better than me, or they're not any better than you, or not any better than most people that are, you know, fully passionate about the sport. They're just getting the opportunity because they're there, you know what I mean? So I just started to get really passionate about my boxing with it. But with the Muay Thai, I don't know, fights were starting to get really hard, you know what I mean? And then they wanted me to fight the same guys 2-3 times. I was like, well, I'm just, ugh. You know, like, you know what I mean? Like, I just,
You're a new challenge.
yeah, I obviously got ADD, and that's why I've gone and done 3 different disciplines all the time. You know what I mean? I've got to kind of entertain myself, but that's all that stemmed from. I just went to there, seen them, and went, you know what? These guys aren't any better than any of us, man. They're just getting the opportunities because they're there. Pull your socks up, bend over, and just give it a red-hot dip. You know what I mean? And that's what I did. So,
I wanted to say, like, because I used to watch you way back before I even got into training, and like used to watch you on Fox Sports.
Yep.
And you were quite the showman, making your entrances into the ring. Where did the idea come from to wear your famous propeller hat while busting out some dance moves?
I was 18 years old, and I was fighting. It's called King of the Cage, and it was an MMA show in Queensland. And it was me and a few of the other guys from my gym that were fighting on that same card, and we were walking around the $2 markets, you know, just in Service Paradise.
Yeah.
And we walked into a wig store, and, you know, Xavier at the time, he's Jamaican, so he put on like a Jamaican wig, and then we had, who else was there? Alex Sheskov, he's like a Russian, so he put on one of those like Khabib kind of big Russian hat, and everyone was kind of doing their own thing and laughing. And then I just picked up this propeller hat and put it on, and everyone just thought it was hilarious. And then one of the boys said, "I dare you to wear that tonight for your fight." And I was like, "All right, I'll wear it." So I wore it, and yeah, I didn't dance. I just wore the hat.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I won pretty convincingly in that fight. So I just went, shit, this is my thing. This is my thing. It's my lucky charm. This thing's trying to keep this going. So that's all that stemmed from, pretty much. And then the first time I ever danced was my first ever appearance on Foxtel, and it was against Kim Johnson. And I was the underdog. I took that fight on 2 weeks' notice, and no one knew who the hell I was. No one knew nothing about me, and I was a sure foot in to cop an absolute hiding from him, and I put that motherfucker to sleep in one round. You know what I mean? And I was so confident going there. I had nothing to lose, and I was fit all year round. And I don't know. I really honestly can't answer that for you. I literally just put that hat on. And then it was probably one of the biggest crowds I kind of fought in at that time. And I don't know, the hips just let loose, and then I just busted a little tail feather out, you know. And then, sure enough, hopefully, thank God, you know, I backed it up and put him to sleep. And then ever since then, you know, the reception that I got from the dance was amazing. You know, it was fantastic. And I like to be different, you know what I mean? It's such a serious sport, and it is a dangerous sport, and I do take it seriously. But you got to have fun, you know what I mean? And I said this years and years and years ago, and I'll say it again today. The day I stop having fun is the day I'll hang them up. I won't do it anymore. You know, I've got plenty more fun left in me. So I'm just going to keep on swinging until I ain't having any more fun anymore.
Because, like, while fighting, and it is a serious sport, but you look like you're genuinely having fun inside the ring. And like, from looking from your fights, it's something that I've noticed that you try and bring that aspect to your game. Obviously, while you're fighting, it's all business, but beforehand, you try and make it like you're all loose and relaxed. So how do you deal with nerves before a fight? Because to me, you don't actually look that nervous going into a fight, or are you actually masking that?
Honestly, the harder I dance, the more nervous I am. So the harder I dance, the more it relaxes me.
Yeah.
So if I dance pretty hard and I really start busting out some seriously wicked dance moves, it means I'm pretty nervous, you know what I mean? And it really, it just relaxes me, gets me good, good little blowout, and then I get in there and I'm okay. But yeah, that's where I'm out the back, man. Like, guys like to listen to music. I don't know, I just like to chat, relax. Yeah, I don't get too much involved in it until I put the hat on, and then it's time to dance, and I'll go out there and try and dance. So yeah, the harder I dance, the more nervous I am, really.
So you're known as the Decapitator and the Captivator. Are they like your alter egos? Was the Decapitator more for Muay Thai K1?
No, I never came up with the names, and I'm a firm believer that you can't come up with your own names. True. You know what I mean? So I didn't come up with that name. Like, I was a young whippersnapper, and everyone had names and stuff. And then I remember on a trip somewhere, and everyone was talking, and everyone was thinking about names, and I honestly can't remember who came up with the name, but they said the Decapitator, and it just went well, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I just ran with it, and it was good, and then I don't know, as I've gone on, I've kind of, I don't know, you want to evolve as a fighter, but you also want to evolve as a person. I know it sounds corny, but I just wanted to step away from that. I'd done that chapter in my life, and I'd done some great things, and it was fantastic, and I'd do it all again. But I don't know, it was at a time I was like, and actually I was actually trying to get sponsors at that time. Yeah. And at that time there was a lot of terrorist issues going on in certain bits and pieces. So like when I was going to sponsors and saying, hey, can I get some help? They didn't really want to have themselves associated with someone that was decapitating anybody. And not that I was, but they just didn't want to associate themselves with a name. And I understand that, and I respect that people have a business and they want to uphold an image. But yeah, that's another reason why I kind of changed it, just to kind of step away from that and just come up with another name.
Now, another thing I want to chat about is, where did you come up with it? Was it you or your mates that come up with the motto, Capper likes to bang? Because I remember watching, I can't remember what show it was, but it was on Fox Sports, and you had all your mates, or a few of your mates, sitting there with shirts, Capper likes to bang. And I don't know if you remember this, but every time I see you going like, Caps is on weight, ready for his date, I always just post, Capper likes to bang. Yeah. And I'm like, man, if you ever get more t-shirts, let me know, because I will definitely buy one. Where did that come up? Because I love it, man.
I put my own foot in it. That Kim Johnson fight, I did an interview before it with Mark Castellini, and I was standing there and he was asking me questions and blah, 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 and I honestly can't remember exactly how it went, but, he was like, how do you feel you'll be able to cope with Kim's lateral movement? He moves around a lot, blah, blah, and I said, I don't think I'll have any issues, blah, blah, and he said something else, and then all I said is, mate, I'm here to bang, mate, Capper likes to bang, let's rock and roll. And I said, I'm here to bang, let's bang. And then Mark goes, well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen, Capper likes to bang. And then that's initially how it came, and I didn't think anything of it. And then when it aired on Fox, obviously I was sitting there with a few mates, and I was sitting there with Habby and everything, my coach at the time. And then it was just a constant piss take of Capper likes to bang, and that's how it kind of originated. So, thanks, Mark, you prick.
Are you going to get more t-shirts made up?
Yeah,
I'll definitely sell out, man.
I'll have to now. I definitely have to now.
When you were fighting Muay Thai in K1, you'd fought most of the top fighters in the middleweight division in Australia. Did you ever try to pursue opponents internationally, or was that ever something that you were interested in, Muay Thai K1 related?
All the time, man. I fought in Japan a few times, and I fought a few Japanese here. Yeah. Because they were just bigger on the K1. I'm just more of a passionate K1 kickboxing fighter. That like, for the sport I had okay hands, and that's what I predominantly like to use. So I mainly push for the Muay Thais because it's so big here, and that's what everybody does here. Yeah. So my passion for that was definitely more of a kickboxing, you know what I mean? And I was always trying to search for international, exposure to anything I could. But, sometimes it's easier said than done, depending on what promotion you're on and where you are. Because we're so close to Thailand, it's easier to get opponents from there, what I mean? And they're just going to be Thai style, and that's cool. But from where I was at that time, I really wanted to progress and go into like, K1 or Glory or one of those kind of ones. That's what I really wanted to do. But just didn't come to fruition. It is what it is. Roll the dice, and it is what it is. Can't do anything about it. So,
because that's what I was going to say. It's clear you had an advantage with your boxing skills in Muay Thai and K1. Do you think that's something that often gets left behind with Muay Thai fighters because kicking and clinching is so emphasised and they score so highly, and punching is
100%.
lower form of scoring?
100%. Yeah, like that's probably the biggest improvement I had for myself as a fighter. I can't speak for anybody else, but you know, I didn't have a full kind of Thai style when I first started, but my hands, you know, I threw okay, but they weren't positioned how they were as I progressed on.
Yeah.
My biggest improvement for myself is literally when I started doing some amateur boxing. Just my timing and my distance improved so much because I was able to bring that aspect of fighting and drag it into my Muay Thai, you know. And I went on, like, you know, that's why they started calling me a Decapitator, because just for that brief kind of year and a bit, I was just putting everyone to sleep, man. Like, I was putting a lot of guys away, you know, just purely just through hands. Guys had their guards out real wide, and they would sit and wait and counter fight, and we'll just go through you, walk through you. And then obviously as time goes on, you start fighting better guys. They start studying you, and they can break you down and whatever else. But yeah, definitely that was my biggest improvement for myself was doing the amateur boxing. And yeah, I think it is missed a little bit too much. I mean, guys have definitely come a long way, you know, since years and years and years ago. Guys are definitely getting better. But for me, like, you know, I mean, look at someone like a Ramon Decker, man, that man was fucking deadly, you know what I mean? Like,
And what, Cal Samrit?
yeah, man, like, yeah, exactly, man. Any of them guys, like, just like pretty ruthless, you know what I mean? I couldn't think of anything worse than constantly just kicking each other for 5 rounds. You know, you walk away pretty sore, where throw some hands, you might put someone to sleep. It's an early night in the office, you know what I mean? But it is what it is. But
I think it worked with you too, because it works because you got power. Like, you can have people that are boxing and they can just point, but in Muay Thai, if you don't have the power, that boxing's not really going to work. But because you had power and because you could put people to sleep, and that's why, like, you know, Raman Deckers, Anawat Kalstamrit, those sort of guys, they do put people to sleep.
yeah, like if you are a good boxer, and I've seen a few, like I went to an amateur show the other weekend, and there's a couple of guys in there, and their hands are pretty good, but just if you're not applying enough pressure, or not even just pressure, if you're not throwing enough heat behind some of those shots, like, you're not going to get respect, you know what I mean? And respect is in the aspect I mean is whoever's, in my belief, whoever's normally walking the other one down is usually winning that fight, you know what I mean? So if you're going to throw all these hands, you know, fantastic, but if you're not gaining any respect from them and they're just going to keep walking you down, it's a long night, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of movement you got to try and do to get out of the way, you know, because they're going to walk forward, especially if it's Muay Thai, they're going to grab you, they're going to clinch you, exactly like a Toby Smith, you know what I mean? Like, he was my kryptonite.
Yeah.
I just can't get away from him, because you can hit that motherfucker with an atomic bomb, you know what I mean? And he'll keep walking forward, and that's his style. He don't want to stand there and box with me or kick with me. Just walk me down, smother my work, and grab you. You know what I mean? That's where that attribute, styles make fights, man. That's where it comes from. So, yeah.
Definitely, mate. And transitioning from MMA to just stand up with Muay Thai and K1 to just solely focusing on boxing, was that something that you'd always planned on with your fight career as it progressed and as you got better with your hands?
No.
No?
No.
It just happened?
It literally just, yeah, I don't know, man, just like a floppy dick in the wind. I just flew wherever I went, you know what I mean? Certain, you know, you meet certain people, or certain things happen to you as a person, or certain things happen in your career, and it takes you in another direction. It's just life, man, and I just took it for what it was and tried to roll with what I had. So, yeah.
When you decided to really give boxing a good go, why the change? And you pretty much trained yourself at the start for upcoming fights. Why did you decide to train yourself early on in your career?
It's a long story. I obviously was with Habby, and I was with him since I was a kid, you know what I mean? And, you know, he was everything to me, you know what I mean? It's the corniest, typical cliche, you know, he was a father figure. I didn't grow up with much of a father figure, and he filled that void, you know what I mean? And he took me, you know, to so many different places, you know what I mean? And we were butting heads, and we went our separate ways. Another long story, and whatever it is. And I just packed my bags, man, and I just packed my 2 bags and booked a one-way ticket and went to the US. And I just floated around there on a bicycle, and just couch surfed and burnt a lot of bridges because I was outstaying my welcome at some places, but hopefully by that stage I'd met someone else, so I was able to stay on their couch. So, man, that, if you want my honest opinion, that aspect of it sucks. Like, I haven't had a trainer for so long, and it's hard, man. It really is hard. It's not like I obviously have to be a motivated person to push myself to try and do that, but it's little things. I've got a lot of bad habits now because I haven't had anybody there telling me what I've been doing wrong for a while. And
it's like if you have those bad habits, you might change them, but at the end, if you don't keep correcting them, you're going to go back to what you know.
You go back to it, and that's where I'm at, man. And I've had a lot of issues with just trying to. And another thing is just trying to trust people. Like there's a lot of snakes, especially in the boxing game. You know what I mean? That's why I'm kind of getting over it a little bit. People are constantly out there just to fuck you, man. And I'm gone are the days where I respect Muay Thai fighters so much because we just don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? We'll fight. You want to fight? Yeah, let's do it, man. And people don't care if they lose. You know what I mean? Like you win some, you lose some. That's the name of the sport, man. That's how it is. Choose another sport if you don't want to do it. But boxing is just there's such a stigma about keeping that perfect record and not fighting this person because strategically at this time it isn't great. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just that part of the sport I fucking hate. That's pretty much.
I was going to come to that later, but now that we've touched on it, let's hit it. I read an article back in July 2017 that you trained under Billy Hussein, who is one of the top boxing trainers in the country. What was that like?
Good, different.
Yeah.
Different, like you're always going to learn something off someone, off a trainer. And I didn't have a trainer for a couple of years, and then I'd kind of come back to Perth, and I was at Perth for a little bit, and then however, certain ducks fell in a line, and then I went over there to train with Billy, and it was great. I learned a lot of things there, but just didn't happen. Didn't see eye to eye on some things. I got, me and Billy. I actually spoke to Billy 2 weeks ago. Actually, we're fine. I mean, he's a super respectful guy, and he is a great trainer. But in saying that, it just depends on the person. You know what I mean? Like I learn a lot of great things, and yes, he is a great trainer, and he has his certain attributes that make him great, 100%. But sometimes, like, how do I explain it? You could have, let's say we have Tom standing here in front of us, and he's a trainer, but he trains Billy, and Billy here, actually Billy's a bad name, Peter, he's trained with him since day dot, and he fights under him so great, you know what I mean? Like he does it for him, but then another guy comes along and trains him, but just doesn't. I mean, you see it all the time.
What works for someone doesn't work for another person.
And it could depend on that person. Like in that peak of when I was fighting in that style, like. Habby might not have been the great coach for someone else, but for me, man, like he could tell me something and I would believe it, you know what I mean? And he would tell me to jump and I would say how high. Like anything that he told me, I just took it as gospel and we gelled and how things went on. You see like John Wayne Parr now, like when he does his pads with some of his trainers and stuff, freestyle. And that's literally how it got towards the end because we knew each other. We'd been together for such a long time, and when I would throw a certain punch, he knew exactly what was coming after it, and I would almost know what he would want after it, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of become very adapted to how each other are going to operate. So, yeah, like, Billy was great, but just didn't see eye to eye at that certain stage. I wanted to fight Sam Solomon. I got an offer to fight Sam Solomon. Yeah. And, that was on 3.5 weeks' notice, just under 4 weeks' notice, and I was in decent shape, but I wasn't he's a former world champion, man. You're asking me to go and fight a former world champion on, just under 4 weeks' notice in his hometown, on that kind of merit. Is that silly? Yeah, probably wasn't the best idea, but man, Did
you have anything to lose?
Nothing, man. That's what I kind of said to Billy at that time, like I said to Bill, I really want to do it, and he said, oh, we're not going to get ready, and I said, man, like, I know that, and I respect where you're coming from, but fuck, I'm in this sport to test myself, man. And I had one regret, and the person who turned it around for myself was my mother, because I was talking to my mother, and at that stage there was a point in my career where we got offered to fight John Wayne Parr, and Habby at the time said no, And I can understand and I can respect why he said no, because I was pretty green, I was pretty young, you know what I mean? You probably would have given me a good touch-up. But I was coming up real quick through the ranks, and win, lose or draw would have been a great fight for me. And that one got knocked back. And then a year or so later, we got the offer again, and I was ready, man. Like, I was confident. I was like, man, we can put some damage on him. And, you know, Habby turned it down again, and we didn't take it. And like I said, I took his word for gospel, you know what I mean? And for me, still now to this day, like I speak to John Wayne like pretty regularly on social media. We have chats, and he's fucking funny, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I regret that, man. That's a massive regret for my Muay Thai career. Like, win, lose or draw, man, that would have been a great fight for me and for my career. And it didn't happen. It didn't take it because I didn't speak up and I didn't do it. And that's what my mother said to me. My mum said, you know, what's your regrets in Muay Thai? And she knew very well that was my regret. So I sat there and I went, you know what, fuck it, man, like, balls to the wall. I got nothing to lose, man. And I went into his hometown and I walked away with a draw. I think that speaks volumes within itself on how that fight went. We think we won that pretty comfortably. So, and even the IBF, you know, I read the IBF reports afterwards, and you know, they had me up and winning. I didn't know them guys, but
yeah,
man, that's a sport. You win some, you lose some. Sometimes you get fucked. Sometimes you get a good decision. It is what it is, man. That's what, I don't regret any of that. You know what I mean? So that's where I was at with that. So I respected where he was coming from, and he respected where I was coming from. We just went, yeah, cool. We'll just part ways and see you around. You know what I mean? There's no
malice or anything.
Nah,
like
no
that.
malice whatsoever, man.
Yeah.
Not at all. I could rock. I'd be very comfortable to rock into Billy's gym tomorrow, and he'd give me a big hug and a kiss and say, "You want to do some rounds, rock and roll," you know.
Yeah.
So there's no bad malice there whatsoever.
That when you took that fight on 3.5 weeks' notice, 3 weeks' notice, and you know you drew with him, has there ever been any talks of a rematch?
No.
Because they don't want to do it.
Oh, we obviously pushed for it, but they didn't, and then it went off and fought someone else. So, it is what it is. I think, like I said, I think that within itself, walking away with a draw in his hometown and then them not wanting a rematch, I think speaks volumes, you know what I mean? So, hey, it is what it is. You can't do nothing about it.
And in regards to that interview that I read with you and Billy Dibb, he said it's all about getting you the right fights. It seems that boxing has more of an emphasis on fighters' records, which can dictate where their career goes, whereas, as you touched on before, Muay Thai is just about fighting, racking up as many fights as you can get, and it's more about the experience. You've had a lot of fights in both disciplines. Would you agree with that statement?
100%, man. And look, I'm going to be probably a little bit contradictory here, but like, boxing is probably the biggest money maker, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it comes down to records, and it comes down to what your record looks like on paper, and what are you going to be able to sell, and what are you going to look like on TV. I'm not talking Australia, I'm talking more America, because I lived there for a few years, you know what I mean? And that's a massive emphasis on it, you know what I mean? And so many fighters. I'm going to talk mainly just in Australia. I'm not going to name any names, but if you look at Australian boxing fighters, let's say in the past 2 years, right, apart from Jeff Horn, okay, all of them had fantastic records, amazing records, a lot of them undefeated, and then they stepped up and went and fought someone internationally, and someone that actually had a backbone, and when they hit them, went, fuck you, I'll hit you back. Yeah. And what happened, man? Every single one of them crumbled, you know what I mean, and fell short. And I don't think that comes down to a lack of skill or lack of ability. I think there's some great fighters in this country, man, and there really is. But I just feel like if you don't test yourself, man, you're just not gonna improve, man. If you fight tomato cans all the time, like when someone's got a backbone, you'll fall to shit. Yeah. That's how I feel. That, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the record means so much, so guys don't want to risk it. So, look, man, it's a frustrating sport. So anyway,
because I listened to Kevin Ross.
Yes.
He put up a thing a while ago, and it was basically just saying, like, in Thailand, like, no one gives a shit about their records. It's more about its experience. It's like, how many fights have you had? No one goes, oh, like, what's your win-loss ratio? It's how many fights you've had? Oh, he's had 5. Oh, he's had 50. Oh, he's had 10. Oh, he's had 100. It's more about the experience rather than, no one cares about their records. I mean, they do it since they're, you know, little. Yeah, so they don't care, I mean, you know.
It's two totally different ends of the spectrum, man. The deciding factor here is money, man.
Yeah.
There's no money in Muay Thai.
No.
There's not.
But that's why I like Muay Thai, because people are...
It's straight up.
They're in it for the right reasons.
They're in it for...
The love.
The passion for it, man. And it's beautiful to see, and it's beautiful to watch. And that's something that boxing definitely doesn't have, that won't have, because there's money involved. And unfortunately, like so many aspects in life, money fucks up everything. You know what I mean?
Money is the root of all evil.
Yeah, but it's nice to have, though.
It is. But in saying that, boxing is an industry known for hyping up fights and promoting upcoming fights to try and get more ticket sales and pay-per-view, which usually involves some sort of drama at press conferences and weigh-ins. What do you think Muay Thai could do to better market their promotion and events to gain more exposure, but without compromising the quality or the culture that Muay Thai has built?
Oh, it's a tough question, man. Oh, I honestly don't know how I can answer that for you. Eh? Like, you look at some. I went to a few. Is it Lion Fight
in America?
In America,
yeah.
I went to a couple of their promotions, and they had a few of them in Vegas. You know, and LA as well. Like, they were pretty good. They used to get a lot of numbers there, but I think a lot of that come down to just because it's not as big there. People were kind of like, do you know what I mean? Like, people were a bit like, oh, you know, I don't know, but they marketed it well, and they had a big production. But it comes down to money, man. They had money behind them to back them to do it. But that's a tough question, man. I don't know how I could answer that for you. Don't know. If I knew, I'd probably have some money, but I don't.
Now, we touched on just before, like, about you going to the States. I was wondering if you'd be able to tell the viewers and the listeners, or the listeners, not the viewers, but the story I've listened to from your podcast with Project C.
Yeah.
You had a mate who helped you out with one of your trips to the US. Can you tell that story and the experiences? And I tell the viewers about the hotel room you stayed in.
With the hooker?
Yeah. Tiffany, I believe her name was.
Oh yeah. Anyway, yeah. It's a long story short. I packed my 2 bags. I had a falling out with my coach at the time, and I literally just booked a one-way ticket. I bodged my return. I had a fake return, and I just booked a one-way ticket. I literally, oh man, I look back at it now and I feel like it was fucking dumb, man. Like, I didn't know where I was staying. I had nowhere to stay. I had one contact over there, Rodney. But I'd been there a few times before for a little bit of training, so I knew my way around a little bit, but I didn't really know anybody. Booked a one-way ticket, got there, landed, went and stayed at this one hotel, and then I caught up with this guy, Rodrigo, who was like a Mexican guy that I knew. I was staying in LA for a little while, whatever, and then I heard that they were paying $50 for a sparring session in Vegas with a Japanese guy. That's all I knew. And literally 2 days later, I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll go down. And I was getting around on a fixie at the time. I called her Rosie. She had gold rims. Chucked her on the bus, caught a bus down to Vegas. Went and got to Vegas, had no idea where to stay. Looked up, got a Wi-Fi. Where did I get a Wi-Fi? I think it was a Popeye or something. I got Wi-Fi. And then stayed at the Budget Suites, which is on Tropicana Avenue in Vegas on the west side. And it's filth there, man. Like, it is fucking filth. Like, it's pretty gross there. But they were cheap, so I was, desperate times calls for desperate measures. So I rocked up there to the Budget Suites, and I was staying at the Budget Suites, and like, literally within, this is no exaggeration, within like 45 minutes of me staying there, I had 5 people knock on the door asking if like Tiffany was there or whatever. And I was like, nah, sorry man, Tiffany's not here. And he went, oh, do you know which room she's gone to? And I was like, nah, I don't know. So I was like, I didn't sleep on the bed. I obviously didn't want to touch anything. And then I didn't stay there for too long. I stayed there for a couple of nights and then ran into somebody else and then just kind of couch surfed from there on. So yeah, that was good fun.
And I know you touched on it beforehand when you said you trained at Team Couture in Vegas, and I'm guessing you met Randy.
Yep.
What was that like, and what did you learn from him?
Randy's such a nice guy, super softly spoken.
Big boy?
No, he's not tall, man, but
solid,
and just I did a little bit of wrestling with him, but I was just like a child, you know what I mean? Like, he just played with me, and he just like showed me some really cool stuff, and and he knew, like, he knows a lot of people even in Australia, you know, and he gives you the time of day, man. Like, and for me at that time, like, I was like, you know, he's the legend of the sport, especially MMA, you know, and to have such a down to earth, you know, kind of being, it was refreshing to see, you know. So yeah, great training, great facilities, great time of my life, man. It's good fun.
Definitely, mate. Now, one thing a subject I want to bring up with you is weight cutting.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about weight cutting and the negative effects that it's had on your body from cutting too much weight.
Yep.
Can you tell the people about the time you cut down to 70 to fight Steve Moxon?
I had 2 bad cuts. One terrible cut was with Moxon, and now the last time I fought at 70 was against Tissares.
That's when you thought you were going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I thought I was going to die, man. What do you want to hear about the Moxon one?
Both.
Well, it's leaving the cuts too late, man. At that stage, everyone was like, you know, it was almost like the more you cut, the cooler you were. You know what I mean? And it's still, that stigma is still around now. Mm-hmm. It's fucking dumb, man. Like, it really is dumb. You live and you learn. You know what I mean? I was cutting for that fight. I felt fine. I was in there with a big Kiwi boy. He fought Steve McKinnon. Yep. I don't know his name. Anyway, I was in there cutting with him. Felt fine. And normally I ran with a schedule of 8 and 2. I'd go into sauna for 8 minutes, come out for 2 and rest. And I'd do that on and off. And I could lose a fair bit doing that. And that was just a system that I just kind of stuck to and what I knew, you know what I mean? And yeah, so anyway, I was in there and I felt so great, and it was coming off me. I could feel myself sweating. So I thought, fuck, I'm going to sit here for a bit longer. I can sit here longer, man. This is good. So I stayed in for like 15 my first sit, which was crazy. I've never done 15 before. I come out, quick little rest, and I thought, man, I reckon I've lost a lot there, man. You know, like a lot's come off me. Fuck, I'm going to go back in, you know? Yeah. Went back in after about 2 or 3 minutes, and I literally just sitting in there, felt fine, and then I just went and moved, and then that's all I remember, man. I remember waking up. I felt like I ate a mouthful of sand. I thought, what the fuck? And then the Kiwi boy was dragging me out of the sauna. And then dragging me out, and then obviously Javi, my coach at the time, we were cutting weight at like a Fitness First or something, so he didn't want to, he probably should have been there with me, but he wasn't. He was out on a cross trainer or something, just trying to kill time or whatever. Yeah. And I'd passed out and thought I'd eaten a mouthful of sand. All of a sudden I realised I've knocked out all my front teeth gone, and blood was pissing out everywhere, and I was so disorientated, and unless you've ever been in that situation, you won't understand it. You'll think you do, but you won't. Like both of those times that I'm talking about have, without a doubt, hands down, been the closest that I've been to death. You know, and when you're that disorientated, like, you're pushing yourself to death. You know what I mean? Your organs are shutting down, your body's shutting down. You know what I mean? So I couldn't talk. I could barely. My vision was all blurred and fucked up. And then, you know, Habby come in and my face obviously covered in blood, and I was all fucked up, and I looked like an 80-year-old granddad with missing teeth and whatever. And then he was trying to talk to me, and then we were sitting in there, and then I started crying, and then I got angry, and all these weird emotions, man, that I can't explain to you just because of that. Your body, I don't know, I can't explain it to you.
Your body's going into shock.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. So then he put me in the shower, cooled me down a bit, sat there, and you know, I'd just done this massive training camp, and the talks were, you know, whoever wins this fight between Mox and I were going to kind of represent Australia to kind of go a K1 route, and you know, that's what I wanted, man. I wanted that bad, you know. Mm-hmm. And I trained so hard for it, and we sat there, and you know, just a week or two before, a guy from here in Perth, what's his name? He passed out in the sauna.
What
you know,
gym did you from?
He's Bill Seth's son.
Okay.
Oh, what's his name? Anyway, he'd passed out in the sauna, and they'd called the fight that right then, and they didn't. All the officials had called it, and they said no, you know, and it wasn't even that bad. He'd just fallen asleep, whatever. Yeah. But I'd fucking done some serious damage to my dental, you know what I mean? And sat there, and I said to Hamel, "What are we going to do?" You know, and I was obviously pretty upset, you know. And then I could see, and even to this day, you know, I know morally it probably doesn't sit well with him, you know. But he sat there, and he knew how much I wanted it and how hard I worked for it. And he said to me, "What do you want to do?" And I turned to him, I said, "Oh, obviously I want to fight. You know, obviously I want it, you know." He said, "If you want it, we'll do it. But you can't, obviously don't tell anybody because I'll call the fight." Yeah. And he he goes, how much more you got to cut? And I said, oh, I've got about 0.6, 0.7, and that doesn't seem like much, you know, but when you're dry, it's a lot, you know. So he said, all right, go cut the rest and we'll do it. So I built up my strength. I said, give me a little sip just to kind of wash the shit out of my mouth, which was absolutely agonising because all my nerve endings were exposed in my mouth. So anyway, I went in, I cut the rest of the weight, went and weighed in, didn't smile, didn't do anything obviously because I didn't want them to know about my teeth. And then anyway, and then even with that, man, as much as it is an art to cut the weight, it's more of an art to put it on the right way. And I physically just couldn't replenish properly, man, just because I couldn't drink, I couldn't chew, and I'm not making excuses whatsoever. That was a great fight, man, you know, and one of the best fights of my career. But did that hinder my performance? 100%, man. Like you can't drink properly. Like I was trying to drink like a penguin, like trying to fully bypass my teeth just to cut. And you can't get enough in. You know, does that mean, you know what I mean? Like, so that was, pretty shit.
And
so
can I just to clarify, did your teeth fall out because you fell over and smacked the floor or
hit
the bench?
The floor head first.
Okay, that's what it was.
Sorry, I should have stipulated that. Passed out in the sauna head first, bang, knocked out my teeth.
Because I was thinking maybe it might have been from you just
no,
absolutely
head first, bang, and then
woke
up to a big Kiwi boy around him. I thought, here we are, and we're gonna have a sore bum, but I didn't. But anyway, that was just from that, you know. And then even during the fight, I think it was about the second or third round, I'm not too sure. Like there was two teeth on my far right that were still there, but they were loose, you know, they were in contact, you know. Had the mouth guard in and he'd hit me, and then sometimes they take the mouth guard in between rounds. I said, no, just leave it in, you know. Sure enough, at the end of the fight, we gone out the back and I'd pulled my mouth guard out, and both those two teeth were they come out with the mouth guard, they're embedded. So that was pretty much, another two teeth had gone with it. So, hey man, all fun and games, but without a doubt, man, this weight cutting shit is dumb. You know what I mean? There's a fine art to it, and if you don't have it down right, it really does affect your performance, man. Like, even just getting hit, normal shots that I really, like, Moxon hit hard, you know, he did. But I sparred with him a lot prior to that, and I've got a ton of footage, you know, with me and him sparring, you know. And he hits hard, but there was a lot of shots he hit me with that, they didn't really faze me. You know what I mean? He hits hard. I'm not denying that. You know, but during that fight, he hit me with some shots, and I just didn't have any legs underneath me, and I would put that down to just not having enough fluid in my brain. You know, like it's rattling around like a little fucking pea in there. You know what I mean? But anyway, I could be wrong, but scientifically, that's what it would lead to. You know, so.
And can you tell us about that the other weight cut?
TAS?
Yeah.
That was even worse a cut. I didn't obviously knock any teeth out, but I was just mentally and morally, I was in a horrible, horrible place trying to make that weight. And then I ended up getting like a heat stroke in the sauna, and I ended up vomiting all over myself, you know what I mean? So and then like a real viscous yellow, like the lining of your stomach, the lining of your gut come out, and I was vomiting on the floor, and then I was like, I was rolling around my own vomit, man, because physically you can't get up, you can't do anything, and then like I tried to get out and pee, and I couldn't. I just pissed on myself just because you're so like the thought of, I felt a pee coming on, and I thought, mate, that's fucking 300 grams or something. You know what I mean? Like, I thought, yes. The thought of getting up and physically trying to walk to go somewhere to try and pee was like, man, I know it doesn't give it justice to a lot of people on here, but when you're in that state, man, like I just went, fuck it. So I pissed myself and vomited fucking everywhere to make that weight, and horrible, man. That was the last time I made that weight, you know what I mean? That was the last time I cut down to 69.8. That was the last time I went to that. I just went, I'm not fucking doing this anymore, man. This is dumb. This is silly, you know? I either need to cut and sit lower or just go up a weight division, man. Like, go up. So pretty much went up from there. So
did you we've all got Facebook, did you see there was a boxer last weekend, I think he lost the fight, I can't remember his name, but he did a piss sample after the fight, and they showed his piss. It was just red and brown. It looked like beetroot from all the blood from all the body shots and liver shots. Yeah,
that hasn't happened to me, but yeah, wouldn't be nice.
So with all what you've been through with weight cutting and knowing what you know now, what's your advice to people cutting weight today? And given that you've gone through some terrible weight cuts yourself?
It's not cool to cut shitloads of weight, man. Is having... man, I'm getting some... Yeah, see? I think it's good. I think the weight cut is good if you can do it smart, you know what I mean? Having an advantage. 1, 2, 3, 4% are a lot in this sport, you know, and if your 1% is being a little bit bigger than that man, or having a different attribute to someone else that's going to play in your favour, man, play to that attribute, you know what I mean? And if you can be significantly bigger than another man but do it smart, do it. It comes down to a lot of discipline, and it's hard, not easy. But I would say get close to your weight.
Your natural weight.
Yeah, get as close as you possibly can to your fight weight. Like say 5-6 weeks out. You know what I mean? That way you're not.
Okay, say
you're not focusing on, you know, winning a lot of guys. And I'm preaching to the choir right here because I know I'm not following this advice myself. You know, I have a lot, but you know, I've fallen short a lot of times as well. Where like, you know, your main objective now is not the fight; it's to make the weight.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about trying to make this weight, and then the fight comes secondary. Where if you're close to weight and it's not a massive issue, you focus on the fight and your performance shows. You know, that's where I'm at with it. Use it if you can do it smart. But
so
don't knock your fucking front teeth out or vomit or piss on yourself because it's not cool.
So let's say, for argument's sake, you got a fighter who's fighting at 70 kilos.
Yep.
And so what would you say? So say if he normally walks around at, I don't know, like what? Okay, say if you've got a fighter who wants to fight 70 kilos, what weight do you think they need to be naturally? And then as you were saying, like, so say let's say, does he need to be 78, 76, and then when he's like, you know, 4 weeks out, 5 weeks out, what should he be at?
See, there's so many variables involved. Everyone's different. Everybody's body reacts to a different way, you know, and it's a hard one to pinpoint. But you know, it's a hard one. Everyone's different. But you know, for me, I'd want to be, you know, when you blow out, you're probably 8, 9, 10 kilos, you know, over that weight class, you know. But I would I'd want to be within 4, you know. Be within 4. 4's easy. 4's doable, you know what I mean? And the majority of people can do 4 pretty comfortably. You don't want to be killing yourself to do it, man. Like, that's when the sport doesn't become fun. And I'm a fat kid at heart, you know what I mean? So
we all love our food.
Yeah, everyone loves their food, you know, but it's not the food, it's the hydration, it's the dehydration. It's you cooking your insides. It's fucking dumb. Be smart about it. You got to trial and error a lot of stuff. Try and be as close as you can to your weight, I reckon.
Did you go on a drip after when you rehydrated?
100%. Everyone does.
You had to, eh? Yeah.
Everyone. I haven't done it for quite some time because I don't have to because I try and sit pretty close to my weight, you know.
Yeah.
But back in that day, because I was just doing massive cuts, you know, like 6, 7, 8 kilos in like, you know, a week and a bit, you know. That's fucking dumb. Sometimes 7 kilos in a week. Come on, man. It's stupid. So,
are you a fan of old school or new school training?
I'm a fan of old school techniques.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of new school, like, attributes, like...
Strength and conditioning and all that?
Yeah, some strength and conditioning, you know what I mean? Like, and there's elements that you can bring into the game that weren't around 10, 20, 30 years ago, you know what I mean? That science has played a big part in developing athletes, man. Like, a lot of guys, you know, you see a lot of guys out there now, especially say MMA, you know what I mean? Guys are technically not that great, you know what I mean? They're pretty fucking average, but they're athletes, you know? They really are off the chain, strength, cardio-wise, you know what I mean? And then that sees them through. So bringing that element in, I think, would play, you know, a big factor. But it comes down to any discipline. If your basics are on point and your fundamentals are good or sweet, everything builds off that, man. It's a pyramid, you know what I mean? Like, you're always going to fall back to your basics, and you should fall back to your basics. And if your basics are solid, man, that'll see you through a tough night in the office. Then when you want to start getting fancy, then you can bridge off that. But when it goes to shit, you fall back to your basics. I like old school basics. It's fundamentals. It's simple, but I like a bit of flair as well, you know.
I think you're right in what you just said with a lot of the guys' techniques, especially like I've noticed in MMA, like obviously because they're not just doing one discipline, they've got a lot. But you know, like you see them hitting pads and you think, like Thai style, that's terrible. But they have that cardio and all that fitness and stamina that they can last 25 minutes. So they don't really, you need the technique and it might not look like 100%, but because they can last 25 minutes, that's what's going to get them through. Whereas you could have a nice technique for 1 or 2 rounds, but if you gas and you're done, there's nothing worse than feeling like you jumped in an ocean with all your clothes on and you're trying to throw punches. I've been there myself where you're trying 100%. To throw punches and you can't. And that guy, they don't have the best technique, but they have that fitness and they'll go. And there's 100%. Nothing worse than feeling like you're trying to 100%. Suck in air.
That's where it's at. Like, I feel like some guys are really lacking in fundamental kind of techniques, but just ridiculous cardio season through. That's an attribute that they have. They obviously, surely they hopefully would realise that they're probably a little bit below par technique wise, but they make up for it in cardio or grappling, or they got power, or whatever it may be. You know what I mean?
So okay, a couple of questions I want to ask you. Who's the toughest opponent you fought, K1 or Muay Thai?
Toughest fight I ever had? Shannon King.
Oh yeah,
Shaggy King, ever fight of the year. Just at that certain stage in my life, I was a pretty young buck, and I was coming up, and he that fight tested me mentally as a boy, as a man. You know, like that took me to different. He dragged me in some deep waters, and I'm super proud of myself to see through that. I know it sounds a bit corny, but in certain stages in that fight, man, I was seriously questioning why the fuck am I here? You know what I mean? and I there was an occasion to rise to it, and I rose to it. That was probably one of the toughest fights. Plus, he split me like a fucking vagina. Like, he elbowed me so many times, man. I think I walked away with about 23 stitches or some shit. You know what I mean? He elbowed the fuck out of me. So that was
that one right there on your forehead, I can see.
And one there, and that one on the eyebrow too. So, and I got a couple on my lip, and he threw a heap of like downward elbows on the top of my head. So, and he's a tough son of a bitch, man. I hit that motherfucker with everything in the kitchen sink, and he still got up, you know, he still kept coming. So that was mentally for me. That was probably one of my toughest fights. That's probably one of my toughest fights.
And the toughest boxer you've ever fought?
Toughest boxer?
Or your toughest boxing fight?
Toughest boxing fight was probably against Tony Hirsch. That was in Las Vegas. That was a tough fight. Just the whole atmosphere, the surroundings. It was in Vegas. You know, it was a great experience. But that was probably a tough fight. I lost that one. Deserved to lose that one. Didn't do enough to, but that was probably my toughest one. Tony Hirsch.
Yeah, mate. What's the plans fight-wise for you heading into 2019? Have you got anything lined up?
Mate, I've been wanting to fight since Solomon, man, but I just can't get a match up, and it's seriously painful, man. Like, this is where it starts to eat your soul away a little bit, you know. Like, I'm 30. I'm not a spring chicken. I'm not an old boy, you know. I've still got a good few years in me, you know what I mean. And I want to make the most of them. Sitting here getting fucking stale on the shelf is not something I want to do. So, little inside information. I'll be fighting MMA next year, because you know what? They don't give a fuck. And they'll fight. And you know what? I'm pretty confident that I reckon I would only need a handful of fights in that, and I reckon I could get in the UFC. I really do. I genuinely do. Like, I fought a couple of top tier guys like MMA years and years and years ago, and I barely even trained. You know, like wrestling wise, you know what I mean? And I took some of those fights. I took one of the fights on like 10 days notice, and another one like on a month's notice, and I gave them an absolute licking, man. You know, that's what I need to bring back. I feel like I've been in boxing too long, where I'm like, I think about shit too long. Like before, I just didn't care, man.
Yeah.
Like I just fought. What's the word I'm looking for, man? Not only hunger, I need to get some real hunger back again, but just
need to get your mojo back.
Yeah, just like having a zero fucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I need to get that back, man. Like nothing to lose. Like that's what needs to happen. But I want to try and have some boxing fights next year. You know, like I'm sitting in top 15 in the world for the IBF rankings. It'd be fantastic if I could make something happen from that. You know, like start building up those ranks. But it's just hard trying to get fights, man. Especially in boxing, nobody wants to risk their record, or like it just comes down to politics. It is what it is. So, you know, behind the scenes, I've been wrestling a fair bit lately. So I'm not going to be a jiu-jitsu ninja when it comes to, you know, next year.
Yeah.
But I'm not a crab at it. You know, I've got a pretty good idea, and I've done it for a while. So hopefully it's like riding a bike. It just takes me a little bit to get used to it again. You know, I just want to be able to shut shit down, punch and sprawl, try to get back on my feet, and knock fuckers out, you know, in a perfect world. So it'll be boxing and hopefully a little bit of MMA next year. That's my plan. But
I've got to ask, being Muay Thai interviews and being Muay Thai is my passion.
Yep.
Will we ever see you in a Muay Thai or K1 ring again?
Yeah, I mean, I reckon, why not?
I'll tell you what, I heard a little story that Kim Johnson's making a comeback as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, doesn't interest me.
No.
I don't know.
Well,
man,
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he's making a comeback.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, see, they really push for a rematch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember at the time there was a big blow up about being a rematch, and like I remember Habby saying at the time, I remember he put whoever it was on speaker, and he was like, "Mate, if it was a fucking 5-round war, or it was close, or it could have gone either way, or let's say Capper just got the edge a little bit, yeah, sure, we'll do the rematch. But we put you motherfuckers to sleep in one round, mate. Come on, like, don't, you know, like."
I think credit to him if they want a rematch rather than just going, fucking.
Yeah, 100%.
Credit to them.
100%.
He's like, you want to try and if someone wants to try and redeem himself, you got to take your hats off to him.
No, you know what? I'd like. Not interested in Kim Johnson.
Well, I'm not saying. Okay,
I wouldn't want to fight. I don't want to fight Toby again because I can't beat that fucker. If I was to fight Toby, it'd be K1, but he won't fight K1. He wouldn't. Mate. When we fought the first couple of times, like when we fought the first time, we tried to make a bit of a deal, like, yeah, we'll fight one Muay Thai, one K1. Well, see, they got the Muay Thai first, and then they said, stick, you know, and that's fine. I get along with Toby pretty well, but like, I wouldn't want to fight him because it's fucking, you know.
I tell you what, there's a lot of other good 76 kilogram fighters in Australia. You got Pen and P, Charlie Bubb, Malad Farzad.
I spar Malad a fair bit boxing.
Eddie Farrell.
As well. Yeah. I mean, I go down to 76 still. I can.
Is that too heavy for you?
I walk around to 76, you know, pretty comfortably. So I could go down to 72, to 72 and a half again. But
those boys can't make 72.
No, they're big boys as well. You know what I mean?
Man.
But yeah, I can walk around at 76 pretty comfortably. So.
Wish I could walk around 76 comfortably.
Yeah. Too much of a big nutsack. You need to drain it.
Too much of a big belly,
mate. too many beers. I don't know. Yeah, look, I've actually thought about it. To be honest, man, a few months ago, I was just driving around. I finished work, plumbing, because I'm a plumber, and I just drove past Riddler's gym, actually.
Yep.
And I don't know what came over me. I had my gear in my car, and I just went, fuck it, I haven't kicked anything for about 4 years, fuck it. And I just pulled in there when I seen Darren, and he was like, hey, what are you doing in here? And I said, man, you got a class or something? I just want to jump in. He goes, oh, we've got fighters training in about 20 minutes. If you just want to jump in that. And I was like, fuck, I won't do any sparring, but I'll do something, you know?
Yeah.
I had a blast, man. It was so much fun, you know what I mean? I got hungry again to do it. I was like, this is fun. I had a lot of fun doing it, you know?
Yeah.
So, never say never. If the right opportunity presents, fuck yeah, man. I'll get out there and wouldn't mind kicking someone again.
I wouldn't mind watching it.
But mate, Capper likes to bang.
Capper likes to bang. Now, you've opened up your own gym called The Barn.
Yep.
Can you tell us about that? What does it offer? And if people want more info, where can they go?
The Barn is in Balcatta, it's in Perth. Go to thebarnfitness.com.au. If you go on the website there, it has all the information on there. Yep. I pretty much offer boxing, Muay Thai, a bit of strength conditioning, some circuit classes here as well. I eventually will get into some wrestling to have here, but obviously I'm not going to teach it, but eventually I'd like to have a coach here to do that. Bit of an all-round kind of gym. It's not a fight gym by any means. I have I've only been open 8 weeks, man. This is my 8th week, so I haven't been open in a long time, but already now it's very family orientated, you know what I mean? I've got a lot of kids down here, and it's a bit more of a cruisier vibe, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what I want, to be honest. Yeah. Will I eventually like to train fighters? 100%. You know, I would love to, but right now, obviously, I still want to fight myself, and I can't be 3 men, you know what I mean?
So, and you still got your day job as well.
Yeah, so well, at the moment, the gym's, you know, I've only been open a certain amount of time, so I can't expect it to be making me heaps of squid, so I'm still digging holes and playing with people's shit in the time being. But eventually I would like to step away from that 100%, because my passion is not that, it's obviously doing this. So when the cards are played right, hopefully we can rock and roll. So hey, come down to the barn, kids, rock and roll.
And if people want to follow you or contact you, you got like Facebook, Instagram, that sort of thing?
Just Wes Capper. Just Facebook, Wes Capper, the Captivator, and Instagram is just Wes Capper. Excellent. So hit me up.
Excellent, brother. And last but not least, anyone you want to thank or give a shout out to?
I obviously want to thank my mother, because I wouldn't be here without her doing her thing back in the day. I just want to say a big thank you to my my beautiful fiancée. She's been an absolute blessing to me the last couple of years. She's kind of kept my head straight. She's definitely been a bit of a rock for me. Just my friends and family, man. They're the ones that have kind of really seen me through a bit of a dark place mentally the last couple of years. So just them, pretty much. And thank you to you for coming all the way here to talk shit. It's been a blast.
It's been fun, mate. I'm going to go have a couple more pints at the airport before I've got to catch my flight. So
be rude not to. Have one for me.
I will, mate. I'll have a couple for you.
Fantastic.
So, mate, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you back in the ring. And remember, kiddies, Capper likes to bang.
Investigate the lives of great warriors, revered and notorious, infamous and legendary. That to me is glorious. Come kick it, still talk some shit with me. I'll ask so you can answer and explain to me the history. I had to throw a vicious knee. I got a passion for the heart of 8 limbs. I'm just asking from the heart. So as I conclude this interview, thanks so much for sitting through. Love to all the fighters and the folks that listen. This for you.